One of the most satisfying things is watching a woman who has faced no consequences get the consequences. Second best has to be when their argument is tested for why, women should have all these perks and excuses, when that argument's just destroyed. And I think we can all agree right now the GOAT of that is Andrew Wilson. And it's one of my favorite things to watch in my free time. And this is one of my favorite snippets of the debates he's had, because it really just drives such a hole. It exposes the hole in their argument. One of the many. But this doesn't get talked about a lot. And I think it should be. So, welcome back to Far From Eden. By the way, somebody asked yesterday in the comments if that is a cat. Well, yesterday. I don't know when I'm going to air this video. So anyway, somebody mentioned in the comments if that was a cat over there. Yes, that's Charlie. Lola the dog loves cats. And and a lot of the guys in the chat love all creatures, great and small, which I've learned is actually quite a masculine trait, that men just love animals. And it's interesting because they're painted so differently, aren't they? Not the animals, the men. Anyway, I will shut up and let's get into it.
Going back to
they're not arguments
to how to cut off the funds, like off of your example for someone who's married, is that what you would do for your marriage if your wife was spending too much money just to cut off the funds, just to like teach her a lesson? But what would you do?
Well, it's not teaching a lesson, but I have children. She has children with me. I think that it's very important that if one of the partners is being irresponsible with money, that it's a duty to cut off funding so that they're no longer irresponsible with money. And I think that oftentimes, especially if you look at consumer spending, women are responsible for upwards of 70 to 80% of all consumer spending.
I will tell you that the word duty would cause a glitch in most women's brains. Like, wait, what? And the other thing, and this is terrible, but they're showing us that it's true. It's a glitch in their minds to think, oh, it's not about me. It's not about teaching me a lesson. It's not about me at all. It's about what's best for the family. It's about what's doing right for the family. And you can tell, like, she's just like, she's not getting it. She's like the fembots on Austin Powers when they're like, they're shorting out.
They spend a lot of money. So the thing is that oftentimes
it's a misleading stat, because women spend money on a lot of things like household stuff.
I agree. Listen, so, I agree.
Awfully defensive about us spending money, right? No, hold on. Girl math.
What I'm saying to you, though, is that generally speaking, they spend a lot of money. So you're going to often find that when financial disputes come up inside of marriages, it's not usually the man who's overspending. They do. Don't get me wrong. It happens. But oftentimes it's a woman who's overspending. And so it falls under the duty and purview of the man to say, no, you can't overspend. And if he's the breadwinner and he's the provider for the family, why would it be problematic for him to say that this money needs to be used in a way I deem responsible for the family?
So then you encourage
why don't they
him
do the
to
shopping? Right, but I wanted to, so you're saying basically to cut it off, but wouldn't that be a red flag as to why she randomly started to aggressively spend on this money? Because if someone who's married and their personality drastically changes, wouldn't that be a reason to find the root of why, instead of just saying I'm going to cut this off and starting the beginning of why a relationship fails because of the lack of communication?
Shouldn't you, let me translate that. Wait a second. Have you considered, Andrew, that she's spending all this money because it's probably something you did? There's probably a lack of communication, which usually means you're not listening, which means you're not agreeing with me. generally she's having to shift argument from where we women usually start, and that is, you just want all the money for yourself and your stuff. And why would we say that to a man? Because it's generally not true when he's making these sort of tough decisions for the family. Why would we think that? Could it be that the women who are accusing that, it's because that's really what they're doing? I don't know, just a question.
Yeah, so I think you're conflating two different things. So if you're asking me, do you think that we should get to the root of the problem of why the woman is spending so much money? I would say sure. But that really doesn't negate the point that if she is spending too much money and the dude puts a freeze on the money, that he seems to be justified in doing so.
I don't think it's justified, because you're not necessarily stopping the situation. You're just putting it on pause, and it's only going to find other ways in the relationship.
Well, it's both
and
worse. Is what I'm saying, Angela. It's both and. So you can put a stop on it while you get to the root of the problem.
But I was going off of your example, and it just seemed like you
my
didn't
example.
Really...
My example is both and. You can do both things at one time. You don't have to do one or the other. You can do both, and then you can do the other thing as well. So again, marriage is work. If you're going to be working on your marriage, you have to freeze the funds. Obviously, you're going to be working with your wife on why it is that she needs to be spending this money in the correct manner, this type of thing. I think that that's totally reasonable.
That doesn't change the fact that depriving funds can, maybe not always, but can be a form of emotional abuse. And you asked what other forms of emotional abuse are there other than gaslighting. I gave an example of how depriving funds can be emotional abuse. And so now I'm asking, you're saying that only the church should be allowed to determine whether or not that's emotional abuse, and that shouldn't be adjudicated by the court?
Are you saying that only the woman should be able to decide whether it's emotional abuse? We can all play this game.
Can holding out on sex be emotional abuse?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
so can basically everything be emotional abuse, just depending on the subjective interpretation of one partner? Isn't that really what's true? That everything under the sun could be
somewhat why court systems and part of legislation, when they decided to make no-fault divorce available, was because so much of this court system was wrapped up in determining these subjective arguments of he said, she said in the first place.
Well, no, not just that, but there was also a push from a feminist arm in the United States, and especially under the Reagan administration. Yes, I've read. You should also read a book called Occult Feminism. It was written by my wife, and it'll go over all of this, just so you know. And yes, that was a shameless plug.
Sponsored.
Have you read the justifications that legislators have made for the reason in which they have implemented no-fault divorces in their state, and why other legislators in their various states have still kept some sort of at-fault divorce available for those who want it? Covenant marriages.
Those justification for no-fault divorce is not even recent. So there you'll find justifications throughout feminist literature going back all the way to the early.
It's not what she asked, because she's trying to squeeze him. She thinks she's trying to squeeze him into only being able to respond a certain way. And it's just funny. It's like, have you never seen this man debate? He's going to win. The problem is these women actually believe all this junk that they're saying. They don't understand. It's not really well thought out. It's completely one-sided. And it's almost like narcissism. Sometimes when you see the video, when there's a cut in it, it's because Lola needed to go outside or needed pepperonis or something. So if you're enjoying this content, that reminds me to ask you to hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let's continue to watch Andrew cook.
Listen, I'm answering your question.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. Let me finish. You'll find justification literature going back all the way to the 1800s for an attempt to push no-fault divorce, or being able to get divorced for no reason at all because you want to. It's part of the women's liberation movement. They've been pushing for this forever. Under Reagan, there was all sorts of different justifications which were pushed for it. But here's the thing. Reagan started in California by doing this, and then he made it nationwide. It was a huge mistake.
1968, I believe, when he was governor. And, everything has always moved to the left. If you don't get that by now, like the Reagan no-fault divorce thing is a really good example. It's made to look like, oh, well, look, the the Republicans are in charge, the conservatives are in charge, we're going to roll this back and we're going to fix it, but we never do. It's just an illusion of the pendulum shift. A lot of times, some of this very disastrous legislation comes from when the Republicans are in charge.
How did civilization survive, Lauren? Pre-Reagan instituting no-fault divorce. How? Why didn't everything just blow up?
Okay, so I love how you pivot from answering my question and give me another question, but I'm just going to repeat.
It's like the most thorough way I
Can
could have
you
answered it.
read what the legislators wrote?
Which legislator?
When there's various legislators.
Yeah, give me one name. You don't know one name. You're asking me a question. If I've read a legislator, you don't even know one name.
You're not even letting me finish so under the footnotes.
Give me one name.
Oh, just let her answer.
I just answer mine. Give me a name, and then I can answer the question. You don't know the name. Why is she even asking me the question?
I'll look it up. I'll be the researcher.
Which Supreme Court justice wrote that? I couldn't give you the name. I've read Loving v. Virginia. I couldn't give you the name of the Supreme. Do you know
right?
Supreme Court
Have I read the justifications of the people whose names you don't know? This is big brain stuff, Lauren.
I'm asking under the footnotes of all of these laws, for instance, the creation of the covenant law, you could look up why the legislator wrote that into the law, and they give their rationale. And
that's nice of them. No, I haven't read everything that everybody's ever written, Lauren. Yes.
Yeah, then why are you expecting her to have done that? Like,
because because if she applies the standard to me of have you read X, but she can't even tell me the person whose name I should note to have
matter.
Nina.
Like, you're just
Nina, stop, Nina.
So you have to know every little aspect.
If you ask me a question, if you ask me question X, Nina, if you ask me a question, have you read what X person has said, and I say what's X person's name, and you say I don't know, your credibility goes to zero.
No, that's not
true.
It is true.
That's very silly. That's very silly.
The author's name. There's plenty of things that I've read that I don't know the author's name. And if you haven't read a lot of things without knowing the author's name, I'd be curious how much you've read in your life, which appears to be
books. What's a book? Are those things that got words in them and stuff?
I will Google it for you, my guy. If you don't know the name either, like I don't know, like I will Google it for you. What was your question when that you were getting all pissed off and like trying to pivot and distract from her line of thought to answer?
You don't remember the question that you're going to Google?
You want me to repeat the question?
I was looking up something else.
By all means.
Okay, so the legislators who wrote, like for instance, Georgia. Does Georgia have covenant divorces? Okay, I don't know. The various states in which have covenant divorces, they typically write a treatise as to why they created a covenant divorce, or why they got rid, or why they changed the legislature. I'm wondering if you've read any of these treatises.
No.
So you're saying they had reasons and excuses. So you're saying that the state had good reason to do this. They're here for us. They're the government, and they're here to help.
Okay, so you don't know any of the legislators' justifications for getting rid of at-fault divorces.
Well, no, that's not what I said. There's more to a legislation process than a treatise. So there's all sorts of political justifications which are done on the national and localized level by several different authors. Oftentimes, legislation like this is not even drafted by the person who writes it. It's drafted by external parties, Lauren. So, no, I may have read quite a bit on it, but that doesn't mean I've read an example of a treatise directly.
So, okay, if you've read quite a bit on it, can you please give us some of the reasons and why these legislators chose to get rid of at-fault divorces?
Where and which legislature?
They will do this. They will do this within a relationship. Ask you questions that don't fully make sense and are almost impossible to answer so that they can seem like they won the argument. But it's not about the argument, is it? None of this is. None of what she's trying to do her gotcha on is about the argument. She's trying to demonstrate that he doesn't know what he's talking about. Go, little boy, go sit over there. You don't understand what we're talking about. You wouldn't understand. You're just some Neanderthal caveman that just is out to control women and oppress women. Go sit down over there where you belong. That's what the tactic is. It doesn't work on Andrew. He can't, a woman can't put him in his place like that, can't intimidate him, can't anything. And more men are doing that too. They're not backing down. They're not letting it get all twisted and complicated. That's what they do. They throw you for all these loops and try to pull you off topic and gaslight you into thinking that you don't have the full information, or that you might not understand, or that you are not listening. And that's how it plays out inside of a relationship. So it's not just being satisfied that he's owning the debate, but it's revealing what we tend to do to, I mean, the only thing that's not happening is the crying at this point.
Just say New York.
Okay, and which legislature? Under who? Who introduced the legislation?
I'm asking you if you've read I'm asking you why.
And I'm just asking you to give me the answer so that I can answer your question. You don't know.
I don't know which
right.
specific legislature.
Yeah, so don't ask me stupid questions, Lauren. Stop asking stupid questions, Lauren.
That definitely comes off like you know what you're talking about. You're not just playing, definitely, Andrew.
I'm asking you a broad question.
Yeah, I get it.
You're asking me to pin it down to a specific person. I'm asking you, what is the rationale legislators gave for getting rid of
where and which legislature, Lauren?
Why not?
She just said she's asking him a broad question. And then she's like, I'm asking you for the specific. This fries men's brains when you do all this. You have to just cut through it and be like, that's a dumb question. No. Just to be confident with it and be like, no, it's a dumb question. And he usually brings them right back to the thing they're trying to avoid answering. And I think that chick in the top left corner, I think she had described herself in this debate as an attorney. Don't quote me on that because I can't remember. I have watched the full debate. I watched most of Andrew's full debates, but I don't remember if she was an attorney, but she's giving me that. I went to law school. I know all the things and I'm above you.
New York, for example.
Okay, which legislator?
Literally any of them.
You're saying that you've read some of these decisions and it's a more broad thing, it's more general, and there's these public, it wasn't.
Are you asking me if I know? So I just want to make sure I get this right. If you're asking me, Andrew, do you know a specific legislative body in New York and their justifications inside of New York for why they did X thing? The answer to this particular question is no. What's your point?
Yeah, it's irrelevant.
Any rationale that these legislators gave for any legislator in any jurisdiction gave for changing the law to no-fault divorce, to at-fault divorce to no-fault divorce?
Yes, I can give you what the Reagan administration said.
Why was that so fucking difficult for you?
Because next time, just be either concise with your question or make it make sense.
You guys don't gotta do this whole thing. Just let's just stay focused.
So
go ahead.
Anyway. Yeah, so the Reagan administration, they pushed this in California, and much of the justification for it came from literally the liberal arts section of California, liberal universities. And what they were pushing at the time was that women were subject to all sorts of different types of abuses, and that the patriarchal system in which they were living under were oppressive to them. And this was a huge push in California. And as they say, as goes California, so goes the rest of the United States. So, yes, those were many of the justifications which were given at the time for why it was that we needed no-fault divorce. But there's other far more specific examples going even further back in history, as feminists have been pushing this for a long time.
All right, I'm going to give a 5-minute warning before we move on to the next topic because we've been going about for an hour. So just a heads up for everybody.
And so these legislators didn't base this idea that women were suffering maybe an abnormal amount of abuse compared to men in these inabilities to have no fault divorces.
They did.
And like
They did offer those up as justifications. Yeah.
Okay.
So they
then-
have. There
That
was a
doesn't mean that
legitimate
their justifications
reason.
were good. It just means they offered them up as justifications.
So you don't think women going through abuses is a good justification?
I don't think that the
Women
justifications which are offered for why it should be no fault if you're going through abuses is justified. No. Do you also, now, Lauren, let me ask you the same question back. Have you read any of the counter arguments to any of these justifications?
Yeah, usually when you
Give
read
me
the
one. Give me one.
The counter arguments is that it will increase divorce. It will
And did it?
decrease.
Did it increase divorce?
Of course
yes,
it was
but
going to
probably
increase
also
divorce.
Right.
decrease the amount of
No
abuse.
shit.
So there was Bennett, the issue that was at hand, which was women being in abusive relationships and not being able to gather the evidence and be able to afford an attorney without their husband
Right.
finding out, because typically their husband
Right.
monitored finances.
Mhm.
So these women were stuck in these abusive relationships,
Now-
and now they're capable.
now, can
of
you
getting
tell
out
me
of abusive
who wrote that?
relationships. So yeah, there's going to be
Yeah.
an
So in
increase divorce.
California,
But over time, there was a decrease in divorce.
but Lauren, in California, who wrote that counter argument?
Oh my God, I don't care. Honestly, Andrew, I think you have to
Lord
prove
Jesus.
why is people who are unhappy
Why
in
is that
marriages
ridiculous?
divorced?
Because
I don't.
I read
I'm
it. I
sorry.
don't necessarily. You don't have to know the author of everything.
Then
that
how
you
do we know
read.
that it's
Yeah,
true?
pretty silly.
Here's the major problem that I see, that I would ask if I were somehow involved in this debate. Do you see the problem with families breaking up? Do you see a problem with the increased divorce rate? Do you think that has had ramifications on our society? Because the way they are all behaving in this debate and broadly is that no big deal. It's actually a good thing there are more divorces.
How do we know that it's true? Can you show it to me?
Oh my God!
What?
You just seem to have maybe read like 5 things in your life.
Okay,
and
wait,
you
okay, hold on. We
remember
only have a
all
little
of
bit
it.
of
Can
time
you
left
show
here.
it to me,
Okay, so
Lauren?
I want to ask Andrew, why is divorce inherently bad for you? That it, like, if it's
There
going
you
through
go.
a bunch of abuses, why do you think that it shouldn't be fair for somebody to leave?
Because the primary edict of a marriage is not about you and it's not about your spouse. It's about your children. And,
Okay, so
keep
if somebody's
continuously
hitting you-
keeping continuity inside of your family is the most important thing that you can do. The outcomes for children, and you're all consequentialists, I'm sure, the outcomes for children are almost always better if they stay inside of your household. Let me give you an example of how bad this is, Nina. Let's say that you have children in a house filled to the brim with abuse, and you remove the children and hand them over to the state. They're 100 times more likely to be abused by the state than they would have been inside of their
so then-
abusive home.
Great, that's actually a fantastic argument for divorce. Then they should stay with the parent that is not abusing them, correct?
For physical abuse, I've never disputed this.
Okay.
Just because they stay with a specific parent doesn't mean they're not under the state's control. Because now, dummy, the judge decides things. If you think you suddenly get all the power and all the control, because now you've won the child in this, even if that's what you think and you're selfish and you think the judge at the end of the day is going to be the final say in the things you do and don't do. And they will mask it as, oh, well, I'm finding the common and what's best for the child. So who are you to decide what's best for my children? By the way, judge, the best thing for the children is for the parents to stay together. But the state doesn't think so. The state thinks the best thing for the children is for the state to decide what's right and what's wrong for them. Why else would we have teachers like there are in the government schools, etc.? But these women, they are all, we love the state, don't we? We love the state. We love that we have a job and our boss tells us what to do. He doesn't care about us. We love that the state provides and helps us destroy men. It's because the state loves us. We have replaced men with far worse entity, right? The man loves us. The man wants what's best for us. And we're calling that the patriarchy, and we're just handing it over to the state. Duh. And how's that going? How's that going for us? Not well. Not well. Ask the women in the big cities in Europe how it's going to remove our men from having any say. Other men can hurt us.
So then you should support divorce.
No, that's not. Well, under the pretense of physical abuse, I've already said that that's a justified reason for divorce, Nina.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any
I'm
line
solving.
for emotional abuse? And that's a call-in question.
So I think that the church is far better at adjudicating this than the state is.
So there isn't a line, but there is a line.
Famously not bad at
Oh, the state famously not bad at.
Ridiculous.
The state is who's famously not bad. Come on, Nina. The state is awful when it comes to adjudication.
Republicans, then yeah,
No,
absolutely.
Democrats
They're
too.
known for having abuse, but-
Line.
Now let me explain the
Let's trust
rationale.
Catholic Church. Let's trust the fucking
I'll
Catholic
explain.
Church.
No, I wouldn't trust the Catholic Church, but let me explain the rationale so that you
Is
understand.
there a line?
I'm going to
for
explain the rationale for why it is that the church would be better at adjudicating this than the state. The church would be better because you're
Okay,
part of the church.
not-
Because you're a part of the church's congregation, they know you. Your priest knows you. This is a community which knows you. They have intricate knowledge of your intricate
makes it
details.
right.
Whereas a judge, and especially a state judge or a state appointed judge, they know
Yeah,
very little
they're
about you. Very
impartial.
little.
Exactly. they're
Very
impartial.
little. They're not impartial. If they were impartial,
Well, that-
then they
well,
wouldn't be
if they
giving
knew
women
that
everything in
make it
divorces.
Right?
What? They don't give women everything.
Yeah,
first.
they have traditionally done
God,
that.
you are so afraid of your wife leaving you. I think it's very hilarious.
There it is. It's always. Here goes the personal thing because they're getting destroyed in the debate. It's still not going to work. It's not going to work, ladies. This man is Teflon.
So once again, first of all, you can't have this church adjudicate things that
No, she
are
would never.
interwoven
Never.
with the state because you can't have the church adjudicate. Like it's just unconstitutional. I'm sorry. And you seem to care about the Constitution. I think you do. I don't know. I can't really tell with you. Is there any line for emotional abuse? Is there a line?
Because you consider emotional abuse can be anything at any time and dependent upon subjective
Yes or no question, actually.
It's not a yes or no question. How long?
it is.
How long have
Is
you been
there
a
a
moron?
line
Yes or
for
no
emotional
question. How long have you been a moron? Yes or no question. How
is there
long
a
have
line
you
for
been a
emotional
moron?
abuse?
It's a yes or no question.
Well, I just passed the bar and I went to law school. So
That's
like,
not
I'm
yes or no.
pretty
That's not
smart,
yes or no,
but,
Lauren. That's not yes or no.
I don't know how long I've been a moron
Right,
because
so-
I've always thought I was pretty smart.
So back to
but is there
answering your
any line
question.
for emotional
Yeah, so
abuse?
I'm going to answer this question. Okay, there actually can't be a line because you set it up and stated that this is subjective and everything could be considered emotional abuse. Everything. So it's up to subjective interpretation.
Here's the line. The line is if the woman says it is and feels that it is, then it is. She doesn't even realize that that's the line that she has drawn. And she is offended that Andrew can't, verbalize that. But the idea is with women is that if it hurts my feelings and makes me feel any type of way that is something I don't want to feel anymore, then I'm allowed to blame it on you and say that you're a bad, bad man because you made me feel this way. And wouldn't that be an easy excuse if you actually wanted to, go visit Chad and Tyrone or go, spend all kinds of money that your husband doesn't want you to spend and take his house and whatever? You could just say, well, he makes me feel this. It's not, it holds no water. Holds no water.
So how could I delineate a line?
Exactly. How could I delineate a line? That's it. So if you like that content, please, if you aren't already, subscribe to The Crucible. It's wonderful. Well, I say that it's one of my favorite YouTube channels. I'm addicted to it, but it's because I like watching this type of thing. I am so invested in this culture war, and I think that Andrew is on the front lines And I think it's great because too, when we watch him debate, we learn a lot about how women think and our nature. And even, like I said, if you're still in a marriage that's kind of, at the very least, you can know what her tactics are and how she's trying to manipulate you by watching these other women. Because a lot of men are in relationships and they will not recognize that, yeah, theirs is like that too. And some men are divorced and they don't realize, they think, oh yeah, I chose a bad one, I'll get a different one this time. But you'll see these tactics and you'll see the little bits early on so we can see how much we can get away with. And you don't want to do that. There's so much stuff you have to make sure is at least not happening in the very beginning, because the little stuff becomes huge. And next thing you know, your house, your dog, your kids, you become a country song. So on that note, you better protect your peace, feed your souls. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.